If you were ever gonna write a book about unsolved mysteries in Pokemon, you could fill up the whole thing with just stuff from Kalos. Basically from the moment that Pokemon X and Y released, and especially as we moved from Gen 6 to 7, the Kalos region has had mystery after mystery after mystery pile up on itself, and these mysteries have been a source of discussion for a while now. We are going to continue that discussion today by continuing our series on unexplained mysteries from every Pokemon generation. Since Kalos is discussed a lot in this regard, however, I will do my best to cover stuff that isn't talked about as much and look at things from a different angle. With that said though, let's get into it. The first one we're going to look at today is interestingly similar to one we talked about in the Sinnoh video, and it concerns the fate of Lysander. Just the way that Cyrus's fate was left unsettled in Pokemon Platinum, so too is Lysander's in X and Y, as upon firing the ultimate weapon and the subsequent destruction of Geosenge Town as well as Team Flare's secret laboratory, it is never revealed what became of him. Did he die from the blast? Did he somehow make it out alive? The fact of the matter is, we don't know. Killing off characters, while not impossible, isn't something that Pokemon ever usually does, so I'm sort of inclined to believe that he survived, but we just can't be sure. Usually, evil team leaders either disband their organization after they've been defeated or get arrested, so just like Cyrus, the ambiguity of Lysander's fate is what makes this so interesting and mysterious. Part of me would love to think that he could have emerged from the rubble and led a more rogue faction of Team Flare in a sequel if Pokemon Z was going to be that sort of thing, for instance, but admittedly that is a big idea to assume without any evidence. So even though you won and saved the day at the end of the game, there isn't as much closure there with that victory as you would normally expect. So it's an unfortunate shame that we weren't able to find out what happened to Lysander in the end. Something very peculiar that tends to fall under the radar when discussing unsolved Kalos mysteries is the ominous message at Loomio Station. If you go to the station and examine the board with the train schedule on it, on the back side there will be a message written there that says, "I'm going to go for help. Wait in the usual place." Not only is this extremely cryptic and suggests that whoever wrote it is likely in danger, but the author is not mentioned either, making it even more mysterious. And as if it couldn't get even more unusual, there is a little boy in the station that when talked to implies that he is there either looking for the message or looking for whoever wrote it. However, as cryptic and mysterious and ominous as this all is, that's where it ends. No further details, no alluding to something that might have happened, not even a breadcrumb of information to explain anything about this at all. This plot, if you can call it that, is over as quickly as it begins, and that is unbelievably teasing. Unlike some of the other situations here that develop at least a little bit before they end off, this one doesn't do any of that. It establishes itself just enough for you to know that something is happening and then ends as quick as it starts. Who is in need of help? What do they need help from? Where is the usual place? And who is the boy at the train station and what does he know? None of this is going to be explained, unfortunately, and that is a travesty because it seems like this really could have developed into something special. Alright, so we're talking about Kalos, we're talking about unsolved mysteries, so here it is. It's time to talk about Pokemon Z. You all probably know about the likely cancelled third Kalos game because I have talked about this a lot lately, so I'm going to approach this from a different angle this time and talk about what the plot of the game could have been like and how it might have played out. So we do know from the somewhat crammed into and rushed presence of complete Zygarde in Sun and Moon that it would have naturally likely been the focal point of this game, especially considering that Zygarde is the third legendary in the Kalos trio for the would-be third Kalos game. With this in mind, I think it's a fair shot to assume that the plot would have played out a lot like the XYZ arc of the anime, where we see Lysander target Zygarde and use it to attack Loomio City, resulting resulting in a climax that brings out Zygarde's complete form. With this more or less likely being what would have happened, especially considering that this anime was likely planned in tandem with Pokemon Z and based on its events but was forced to continue without its game counterpart once it was cancelled, it would have been incredible. Like, honestly, imagine playing through a siege on Loomio City brought on by Zygarde and Team Flare. And then there's everything else that likely would have factored in, like the Eternal Flower Floette and whatnot. It would have made for a phenomenal game. But how exactly it would have played out, and I guess technically if it even existed at all, and why it would have been cancelled, is a complete mystery at this time, and we can only hope that one day that mystery will be uncovered. Arguably the biggest single mystery to come out of X and Y that is still continuing to grow and develop to this day is the purpose of the Loomio City Ghost Girl. As soon as you enter into one of the office buildings in Loomio City on the upper floor, the game will freeze and you'll begin to see a ghost girl fade in and out of view, before floating across the floor and saying, "No, you're not the one," before floating off and disappearing completely, never to be seen again as things return to normal. As a follow-up to this, there's also a girl in a nearby building with the same character model as the ghost girl, saying that she's waiting for something in the elevator, and seems like she might be related to the ghost girl event. However, nothing about this is ever explained or resolved or mentioned, ever. At all. Not only that, but in all other games after X and Y, even including Sword and Shield, ghost girls have continued to appear and then disappear just as quickly with the same huge lack of explanation. Going back to the Lumiose ghost girl though, it seemed at the time that she was going to be a part of some bigger purpose, some bigger plot, and whatever it was cryptic, intense, and downright spooky. Was it ever supposed to mean anything? If so, what? Is it just supposed to be a running thing that Game Freak have included for fun? And if so, why something like this? There are a lot of questions about this both inside and outside of the games themselves that aren't answered and likely will never be answered. But since the Ghost Girls have continued to appear in every Pokemon game since the Lumiose Ghost Girl in X and Y, maybe we will get some sort of resolution someday. Who knows? Another Kalos mystery that tends to fly under the radar compared to all the others, but is just as eerie and unexplained as anything else, is the tale of the Horde of Faceless Men. On Route 14, just outside of Laver City, there is a location known as the Scary House that, when you come across it for the first time, you and your rivals will all go inside to check it out. Upon entering, you'll come across a creepy old guy who offers to tell you and your rivals a story. It's the story of how he came across the house, and how after entering inside to seek shelter, he came across a man, panicked, seemingly in fear for his life over a horde of faceless men. Now, the subject matter isn't the only interesting part of this story here, because as the story is being told, the camera begins to do some interesting things, moving towards you in a very slithery-like fashion, almost as if something is watching you. Naturally, after this occurrence, you're probably asking some questions, like, who is this horde of faceless men? Is something actually watching you behind the camera? And if so, what is it? And what does it all mean entirely? Well, unfortunately for us, but not really unexpected, none of these questions are answered. This story ends when the story itself is finished being told to you. There's nothing else in the game that connects to it at all, offers any further explanations, or implies anything about it further. The entire event is literally contained to that few-minute sequence, and that's it. The closest thing we have to any idea about what is going on here is a theory that it could be related to Zygarde, since you have the slithery camera that I mentioned earlier, which could obviously be a snake, and there's also been some thought that the Horde of Faceless Men could be Zygarde's frills on the back of its neck, which vaguely resemble the shape of a person. That is absolutely all we have to go off of though, and frankly, it might not even be true. Other than that, this one is a complete mystery, and with the spooky, eerie quality it has to it, it just makes things all the more intriguing and all the more frustrating that it has never been explained. And there we have it. Thank you all so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and let me know what you think about these mysteries in the comments below. Also, be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel, and if you want to help out the channel more, you can listen to my Pokemon remixes on Spotify and check out my Pokemon Cardinal project, which would be really appreciated. With that said though, I'll be back on Thursday with another one. Hit that notification bell so you can be here for that, and until then, as always, I love you all, and I will smell you guys later.